There is something living in my grandma's piano. I've rewritten this post 3 times now, and each time I've scrapped it because I was sure it sounded insane. I don't know if this will be any better. It's not like it'll change anything, but I need to tell someone. I need advice. I inherited a piano from my grandmother 3 months ago. That sentence feels cursed already, like the start of some gothic novel or a cliche ghost story, but it's the truth. She didn't even play the thing. None of us did. It had been in her house as long as I could remember, sitting in the front room like an oversized coffin, collecting dust and taking up way too much space. She used to joke that it came with the house and that it would stay with it when she was gone. But it didn't. The house sold fast after she passed, and my parents, being practical, decided the piano was too valuable to leave behind. It was one of those old uprights with ornate carvings along the top and sides, all dark wood polished to an oily shine. Even in the dim lighting of her house, the carvings looked strange, organic. They curled and twisted like ribs or vines growing around themselves. I always hated that thing. But I live in a small house and my parents don't. So guess who got stuck with it? At first it was just furniture. It sat against the wall in my living room, a hulking thing that didn't match anything else. I never touched it. I barely looked at it. But over time, I started noticing little things that didn't sit right. It began with the power outages. At random times, my lights would flicker and die, along with every other electronic in the house. The first time it happened, I thought it was the breaker. I went to check it, but everything was fine. Then just as suddenly, the power came back. This became a routine. Every week or so, the outages would happen, always at night and always without warning. There was no storm, no construction nearby, nothing that could explain it. And when the lights went out, the house didn't feel dark. It felt wrong. I know that sounds dramatic, but I don't know how else to describe it. It wasn't just the absence of light, it was the presence of something else, something heavy. The air felt thick, and the silence wasn't really silent. There were noises, not loud ones, but enough to make my skin crawl. The faint creak of floorboards, the barely audible hum of something alive, and the soft, almost imperceptible vibrations in the air, like the remnants of a low note played on a massive instrument. The first time it happened, I thought I was imagining things. By the third, I was sure I wasn't. Then the piano started changing. I don't know how else to put it. I swear the carvings have shifted. Not drastically, but enough that I notice. The twisting patterns along the sides seem deeper now, more pronounced. They remind me of bones. And the keys, they used to be yellowed and cracked, but now they almost glow in the dark, faintly like old teeth under a black light. I wouldn't have thought much of it if it weren't for the noises. At night, when the power goes out, the piano makes sounds. Not music exactly, but soft, dissonant notes that seem to resonate through the house. The first time I heard it, I thought someone had broken in. I grabbed a kitchen knife and crept into the living room, but the room was empty, except for the piano. The lid was open. That's when I saw it for the first time. It started as a shadow, a strange, shifting darkness within the hollow of the piano. Then it moved. Slowly, impossibly, something began to unfold itself from the shadows. I don't know how to describe it without sounding insane. It was wrong. It looked like it was made of ribs and teeth, all interlocking and clicking as it crawled out of the piano like some grotesque spider. Its movements were jerky, almost mechanical, as if it were struggling to understand how its limbs worked. The sound of it moving was the worst, like teeth chattering, mixed with soft, discordant piano notes that seemed to come from inside it. But the worst part was the way it watched me. It didn't have eyes, not in any way that made sense. But I could feel its gaze. It was curious. That's the only word I can think of. It didn't lunge at me, didn't make a sound beyond the faint clicking of its bones and the low vibrating hum that seemed to come from its chest, or what passed for a chest. It just observed. I stood frozen, knife in hand, staring at this thing as it crawled toward me. It didn't touch me. It didn't try to hurt me. It just stopped a few feet away, tilted its head, or at least, I think it was its head, and waited. For what, I have no idea. It stayed there for what felt like hours but was probably only minutes, watching me with a kind of unsettling patience. Then, just as slowly, it began to crawl backward, folding itself back into the shadows of the piano. The lid closed on its own. The power came back. That was 2 months ago. Since then, it's happened 6 more times. Always the same routine. The power goes out, the piano starts making noise, and the thing crawls out to watch me. It's never tried to hurt me. It's never even come closer than a few feet. But every time it happens, I feel like I lose a piece of myself. It's not just the piano anymore either. I've started noticing food going missing. At first, I thought I was imagining things. Maybe I'd just forgotten eating it. But then I woke up one night and found it in the kitchen. The creature. It was standing there bent and skeletal, its ribs shifting as it opened one of my cabinets. Its teeth clattered softly as it tilted its head, as if studying the contents. When it noticed me, it didn't react. It just stood there for a moment, then turned and crawled out of the room, its limbs clicking against the floor like a grotesque insect. I've woken up some nights to find it standing in the doorway to my bedroom, watching me sleep. And in the mornings, I've found doors open, things knocked over, and faint scratches on the walls and floor. Evidence that it's been wandering the house even when I'm not awake to see it. I haven't told anyone. What would I even say? That my piano spits out a monster made of ribs and teeth? That it just sits there and stares at me like it's waiting for something? I sound insane even writing it. I've thought about getting rid of the piano, but I can't bring myself to touch it. I don't even go near it during the day. But lately I've been wondering, what's inside? The lid stays closed now unless the power goes out. I've never tried opening it during the day. I don't know if I'm too scared or just too tired, but I can't stop thinking about it. What would happen if I opened it? Would it come out? Would it do something? Or would it just sit there, waiting like it always does? I don't know what to do. The thing hasn't hurt me, not yet. But every time it shows up, I feel like I'm being drawn closer to something. Something I don't understand and don't want to understand. So I'm asking, what would you do? Would you open the lid and see what's inside? Would you try to get rid of the piano? Or would you just leave it alone and hope it goes away? Because I don't think it's going to go away, and I don't think I can ignore it much longer.